another kind of a live coding session here. And today we're going to add functionalities to the GenAI library. So rather to do that behind the scene, I'm doing it live. And that is the structured JSON. So GenAI is allowing us to talk to all of the OpenAI or any kind of AI providers. And it's doing so natively, meaning that it's just doing one level lower than using other crates, and it goes directly to the web request in a way. So that is very lean in many ways. Now, one thing that we had in OpenAI and the OpenAI kind of API, because there's a myth here, not all AI providers are providing OpenAI, and even the one that does, they have some variants. But with OpenAI, we had the things which was allowing us to send a request here in English to kind of an AI, and then we could say, well, we want the response format to be in a JSON mode. So we had this kind of JSON mode. Say, can you send it back to me in JSON? And it was sending back in JSON. The problem is there were no formal way of specifying the format of the JSON. So it was useful, but kind of not. There were a trick, and the trick that I liked was to actually specify when we put that in JSON mode, we can say reply in the JSON format with the following format, and I was putting actually the format in a TypeScript-like inline type, and actually follow pretty well. But the AI providers obviously are trying to formalize that with fine-tuning or something else, and so now they have trained their AI to kind of be more precise and predictable into the things. And the way it works is basically now you are passing a type, which is JSON schema, and then you are passing JSON schema, or depends on the provider. And right now there is like two that kind of supports it. So last week we had a tweet from Logan Kilpatrick. He was in OpenAI before, now he's working for Google. And basically GenAI added Gemini, I don't know, added the structured outputs. So that is what we're going to add. We're going to start with OpenAI, just added it before, and then we're going to add it there. And that again, it's the value of the GenAI library here. We don't have to worry about it. And then it will do the normalization for us. And there's actually a little bit of tricks here because they don't have the same schema. So I looked at it already. It's kind of a little bit tricky, but we're going to do that. And we're going to do that live. So let's go back to our code over there. And we are going to, so right now we're doing the cargo, the version is 0.1.8. I did quite a bit of commit here that are pretty cool. There's also some pull requests. So my goal is to add this feature and then do the release. I won't do the release kind of live because this doesn't really add more value. I already did a video about this, but the feature is pretty cool because it will show how I work basically, and then you can cherry pick what works for you. So what we want is to add this feature on this version. So the good news is I have all of the tests per AI providers. So my goal here is we're going to start with test P OpenAI. Usually I don't have that, but in this case, for this crate, this is very appropriate. And then the code of the test is inside this common test. That is the way it works very well for these kind of things. And that we're going to see why it's very useful here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the thing like this. I already have my Olama running and I have all of the keys over there, hopefully. So if I do a cargo test, it should run everything and everything should run. Okay, so I have all the OpenAI keys and everything. There's a way that you can get the auth custom, but by default, or the fallback, is to get it from the environment variable. So I have that. Now, what we want is we want to test our OpenAI only. So what we're going to do is go there, and we already have our JSON here, which is our JSON mode. And in fact, what we could do here, what I will do, is I will rename that. Before we do that, since that is not a simple features, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a branch. And so what I do is I do a git switch dash C, I think, and NX, which is a next feature or feature branch, and just something for me here. I'm not going to push it. It's just for me to know what it is. So that is going to be our branch that we're going to work on. I don't have to have the full name over there. Now, what I'm going to do here, this guy, I want to rename it JSON mode, because we're going to have the JSON mode and JSON structured. And the test here, this function, I want also to rename it because I want to keep everything consistent. That is important. I'm going to do a JSON mode here. Now press save. The renaming in test sometime, because it's not great. I mean, it's funny. You have to sometimes do it by hand. So we're going to do that over there. And we have this guy, and that we don't need to do anything else. Grok is using OpenAI, so I had it as well. So everybody that use OpenAI, I had it there. Yeah. And then I'm going to do that mode here. Okay, so I have this one, and then I'm going to do that last one, and I'm keeping there. So I'm trying to be consistent. And again, the naming here of the thing is kind of important because it allows me to, if I want to test all of the chat JSON, I do a test chat JSON just there, and it will take the mode and the structure. Yeah, so that is the thing. So now we could do cargo test to make sure that we didn't break anything, and everything passed. So we're pretty happy. So now that we have that, so another kind of technique that I'm using, I'm not saying, I'm just sharing my way of working. I'm not saying it's a good way. So what I don't want is to have too many commits because it's kind of a pain to go. So I will probably make one commit for the OpenAI and then another commit for the Gemini. Now, the thing is, when I work, every time it works, I like to have a commit and then I squash them. And the way that I do is just my convention here, git commit -a-m, that is an alias, and I'm going to put a tilde. So I have this convention where I put things at the beginning to say if it's dot is minor, plus is addition, dash is a fix, exclamation is something that change an API or something like that. And the tilde is something that is going to need to be squashed. Yeah? So that is the thing. I'm going to have the JSON ST, so I'm going to not be creative here, use whatever I had there. And then I say rename to JSON mode. And those doesn't matter to anybody. It's just for me to find back my duck if I do a git log. Yeah, so I like that stuff, and then I collapse them into one. So that's the way I do. And sometimes I just do a git command actually on the last one or whatever. So that allows me to, if I mess up, I can recover. So now that we have that, we want to start to do the work. So we're going to go to this one, and where we put out the JSON mode here, we're going to create another guy, okay? And that is going to be test chat JSON, and we're going to call it structured, okay? It's exactly the same one here. Now, press save, obviously, that compare, that fail, and that was in purpose. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our support where we had the thing, going back up, and we're going to have our thing over there. And we're just going to take that for now, the exact same one, structured. Okay, so press save. And now here's the way. This is just the way I work. Yeah, so what I want is to be super iterative. So that is all my obsession all the time when I code, when I do anything, is how can I be very iterative? So what I want here is I have my cargo watch test. I will put the code over there. It's a shell function, so it's a little bit more flexible. And now I can put the name of this file, which is going to be test OpenAI thing. Yeah? So I'm going to put test p OpenAI, and then I'm going to copy paste that, which is the name of my test over there. And because everything is consistent, is fine, is this match exactly that. Yeah? So then I'm a happy kid over there. And then my goal is to work on this guy. I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to do this. Press enter, and then it should work. So now we're pretty good. Now, the cool thing is my CWT here allows me to do the print. Okay? So, for example, we can do a print here, and we can do a chat res. I think there's a text something, unwrap, or I rarely, if never have unwrap alone, no content. Okay, so that allows me to do the stuff. And now we have this. Okay, so what we did here is we didn't implement the feature yet. What we implemented is nothing. We just copy paste the JSON mode. And what the JSON mode does here is, have a system message. Make sure to have that, otherwise some model kind of messed up. You have some sort of data or whatever you want. And then you do a with response format, and you have your response format JSON mode. And that will create the JSON mode, and the guy often, not all the time, by the way, not all the models, will reply in JSON, and then we print the JSON there. And it decided the JSON to do in this case. Yeah? So it decided that the most probable JSON, because that is what we ask, say models and an array like that. Okay? So our exercise is say, well, we're not going to want this one. We're going to want a special to us like all underscore models, colon, and then, something a little bit more specific that we know that you understand a little bit our schema. So that is going to be what we're going to implement. And so the first thing that we want to do is to extend the chat response format with a JSON structured in a way. Yeah? So that is going to be our goal. And by the way, here, little things. So usually here, when everything works like that, what I do, so if I want to keep my terminal here, I do that to have a terminal on the side. And I can do a git commit to add another commit, but there's no value here to add another commit because anyways, there are disposable commits, and this one is very close to the one before. So I make sure that the last one is a tilde, and then I git amend. So I have an alias that does a commit amend, blah, blah, blah. So boom, I have this. So that allows me quickly to not have to worry, but kind of save my progress. And so this way, again, if things go haywire, I can just do a reset on the last one and I didn't lose too much. So that is always my strategy. So now what we want is to go back to our JSON format. That is what we're going to do. And we want to add another variant for the JSON structure. So we're going to keep the JSON mode, which is going to become a little bit the legacy one. Yeah? And then we're going to add the JSON structured. That is going to be our design. And we're going to have a JSON structured like that. And we could say where we take the schema value, that will kind of work. We'll probably do something like that, probably. That will work better. And the problem of that is when I looked a little bit at the API is there's some variance. We're going to get deeper later, but basically OpenAI expect to have kind of one level up with name and maybe description, and then the schema below. And Gemini just takes the schema. So we want to be a little bit more advanced here on this one. We don't need to formalize the struct of the schema or use schema RS and everything. Schema RS is amazing. I love this crate. But here we don't want to be too formal. But at the same time, we need to have the right structure. So what we're going to do here on this one is we're going to create a struct. So pub struct, and we're going to do a chat. And actually, I don't like the chat. We don't need to repeat the thing. We're going to do a structured JSON. So that will be our kind of things, and that will be our variant. Now, I'm not really fun because here we have JSON mode and here we have structured JSON, but the other way is kind of weird. So I'm not really sure here. I like sometimes to have the Yoda style, such as everything is prefix, it follows. But having that as JSON structured, and then this one having like this, that will be kind of weird in a way. So I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm going to have it like this for now. Now, what we're going to do here is we just have a tuple thing. That will be fine. And we're going to more or less copy that there, and that should compile. Press save, compiles. There's stuff that doesn't compile in the adapter because the cool thing is, again, Rust needs to have exhaustive stuff, and then obviously stuff are not taken there. So that is pretty nice. Now that we have this there, this is the things here. So one of the cool thing design that I have, and I like that, is you go to Olama and then Olama, OpenAI, and then you go there. And then on top of every mode.rs of everything, I have this kind of 3 things. And that saves a lot of little things like that, save a lot of time. So now I can open that. And if I bring that here, now the cool thing about this is we can search for structured, which is something I already searched for. And they give us a Python, we don't care. And at some point, hopefully, they give us, okay, this one. So we have type here, JSON schema, and then you have the JSON schema, and then you give your thing. The thing to realize here, and that is the thing that they need. So they need name, at least, description, and then you have the parameters here. And this, okay, so that is a JSON structure. So it's tricky because obviously function calling and structured JSON is kind of very similar. So what they have here is they have this one, and then you give your schema. Yeah, so that is a way. The other one is more for function calling, I think. So this one is this guy. And the trick here that I got burned when I was playing with it is this additional properties. So every time we have a type object, we need to add this. And obviously, Gemini not only doesn't need that, but if we put that, then the whole thing explodes. So we're going to have to deal with this kind of thing. So bottom line is, what we want is to allow people to put a name, a description. The strict, we're going to, in a way, hard-code it because, that will be provider dependent. And then we're going to have the schema like that. So if we go back to our code here, we are going to go back to our chat response format. And so we're going to have a name, and we're going to say that that is required for now. And then we're going to have a description, and that would be an option of string. Yeah, so we're going to say, well, this one is optional because actually it's optional for OpenAI. And then we're going to have our schema, and that is going to be a value. So like this, we're not hard-coding this library too much into these kind of things. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have to build kind of a sanitizers per provider functionality. And then once I have that, the things that I like to create is my constructors, because that helps a lot. And the way that I do that is I do implementation, and we're going to do structured JSON, and that will be a pub new, pub fn new, and it's going to take the name. So here's a debate. One thing that I like to do is be flexible and be ergonomic, because the ergonomic in the APIs makes the code of the user much more clear, and the clearer, the more concise, the more readable, the less bug, easier to maintain, and so on. So it's not about cosmetic. The funny thing is that the cosmetics has an impact on the physics in a way. So I like to have the import into string. Now, there's a debate here to say, well, that is going to make your binary size very big. Well, not really, yes, because it's true that the compiler will generate different function for different type when they are used. But if the body is very small, the size is very negligible compared to the value of the code clarity and everything. It's very small. What we don't want is to have the new like being 1,000 line or 500 line or even 300 line of code, and then having to reinstantiate all of that, assuming that the compiler doesn't do the optimization behind the scene. So in this case, we just create a function that does the inert to take the solid type in a way, but we can still have the into there, and then we just call another function where we do the thing, and then everything will be fine. So typically I like to do that at least with one parameter. I often do that all the time. When there's multiple than one, I'm trying to hold myself, but in this case, I think it adds quite a bit of value. So I will say the schema, and I will say import into value. On this one, there's another kind of strategy here to take, I guess, desirable or something like that. That might be better. I'm going to start with that for now, and then we can change it later. Yeah. Now, what I want is the return self, and then I have Copilot, so that should be good. And this is a value. So again, my recommendation is use Cursor or Copilot. There's a Cloud Dev or whatever. But for autocomplete, saves us a lot of time. GenAI, I mean, AI is great to use. Use it as much as you can, but don't trust it. That's it. So now that we have that, I like this. And I'm not going to use that right now, but I'm going to say the setters. So that I did a kind of a video, which was a best practice. But I like to group things like that. And this is why I love Rust, because we can have different group of implementation. I mean, the guys, they really knew how to design a language, I think. Structured JSON, and nothing is perfect, but, it's not about perfection. It's about proximity. So structured JSON, and then we're going to do the with. Okay, so this one is kind of a boring one with description, and then see if the guy does the stuff. Perfect. Okay. So that will give us the description if someone kind of said it. And for now, my strategy is to start with everything public here. Yeah. I implemented clone so people can clone it if they want. And I start public. Some struct, I'm locking them down more. But my go-to is to leave it relatively open, even if I have setters. This is more for convenience. And then this one as well. And we cannot have default, yeah, because we have string. We don't want to have default with string because empty string, I mean, that defeats the purpose. And then the value, yeah. So those two here, stuff. We could say value is null and string is empty, but then it would be kind of off. Now, there's another one here. So this from here come from derive more from, which is awesome. But there's a trick. If we leave the from like that, it will implement from all of the variants. And we don't really want that because we can have bad surprise. So for example, I don't even know how you create this guy here. That might be the error here that we have that. I don't know. But the point here, no, that is the other one on top. So the point here is to use it like that. So you want to be explicit to say, well, I want you to implement the from these variants. So if someone has a structured JSON, then obviously that will be a chat response. So that helps a lot the API when we have those kind of things. So we can implement manually, or derive from is perfect, or if there's another crate that does that, it's good as well. So now we have this one pretty nice. So now what we want to do is to add that to our chat options. So the way it works, again, if we go back to our code here, and the best way to see it is, and now comment test, what we have is with response here, JSON mode. What we want is with response, and we want to give, that will be our structured JSON, and that will take a name. We're going to actually use a new, and what we're going to do is we're going to have our name, which is going to be some schema. So I think here is you cannot have space and everything. These all these kind of things for OpenAI. And then we're going to have our JSON schema. And the goal here will be to create our JSON schema value a little bit before. So we're going to say let JSON schema. And we're going to have our famous JSON here. And that is where we're going to put the stuff. Okay, so right now I'm just going to put it like that, which obviously means nothing. Save, should compile. Okay, so now the question is, what do we want there? And then we have seen here, so what I'm doing in a way here is kind of this kind of a test-driven development, kind of. So my goal is I change this, I'm going to make everything compiles, and then I'm going to print things. And then when it prints, then I can fine-tune it and see the errors and everything, and then I do the check, the asset check. And then once we have that working for OpenAI, we'll move into Gemini. Okay, so that is the strategy here. So what we want is something like that. Yes, so let me go back. It's something like that. So we have those that will be taken care by the structured JSON struct. And then the schema, this is what we want. So typically start with an object, then you have your properties, and then it can be nested and so on. So just to not bug you too much, I've created actually the schema here, which is, if I copy paste it, it should work. Okay. Press save, it compares, doesn't do anything, but it compares. I don't know if I have still have the cargo watch running, but I don't really care. And I have the type object that is required here. So this is very important. This is what they say all the time over there. Yeah, so we need to make sure to set this up every time there is a type object. Then we have the properties. We're going to say it's all models. So what we want is all models. And then the item, we're going to want to have maker and then model underscore name. So that this way is very dumb, but this way is we know that we have this. And again, because we have a type object for OpenAI, we need this. Okay. And then this. Now, that could be generated by schema.rs, which is awesome, by the way, or by any other kind of libraries. Yeah, so that's important to know that the GenAI library, I don't want to fix it to say what is a schema in Rust, a JSON schema in Rust. Yeah? Anybody can give us stuff. Then later we can have utilities perhaps to make it simpler. But that is already pretty good. Now, that should work well. And then we have the structured, we pass it to the JSON options, and then that's it. I think that is good. So we have our response format, and then the chat option here compared to a version before, thing is stored here. Yeah, we have the response format. We have this one here, the chat response format, and that we can get it with the chat. We have a function to just get it, response format. So that will return the thing back. So we're going to be happy with that. Now, the JSON mode here, it was a true flag. I keep it there. I put it deprecated for now. So we need to use the response format because that will give us more flexibility later. So we have that. So everything is kind of set up now on this chat option. And so we can go to our OpenAI adapter. Yeah. So that is pretty good. And the things that we're going to do, we can see where it complains actually. And it complains. This is a cool thing with Rust, obviously. It complains here. So if a JSON mode, we create that. That is correct. But now we need to handle the case where it's not. JSON mode is a structured JSON. So we're going to do the chat, response, format, structured JSON, and then stJSON. So probably here some people say, hey, this is crazy. Sometimes the names of the type, I don't shorten them, except when it's identifier or this kind of thing. But the name of the variable, I take the liberty sometimes to shorten them a little bit. And just something obvious. I'll go back to my duck. Okay, so now that we have that, we are going to decide what we want to put inside the beast. Yeah. So this will return a JSON value, a JSON object that we're going to put in the response format. Now the question is, where do we need to put that there? We had the answer, I think if I haven't lost it, which is, so that is a schema. And then if we go back to structured JSON to chat, sometimes it gets a little bit tricky, those APIs. But if we go to the chat completion, we have it, response format. Okay, so this is the thing. And then we can have this guy. Okay, so this is this tab that we want to have on the response format. Okay, so I'm going to copy paste that there, just because I have the memory of a bird, I guess, or something. JSON, and then I'm going to have that, and then I'm going to have that. Now, here's a trick here. This is not really JSON schema, because it needs to have the name, and if it doesn't have the name, it's going to cry. So this is why we have the stJSON name. Okay, so that would take the name. I'm going to do a clone right now because I think I need to to clone it. The description here to do a description. And because the description, it's kind of we might do it later. So we might create the thing and then do an insert if let, because we don't want to have description undefined. I don't even know. We don't want to set it to null if it's not set. We don't know how it's going to work. So the description, we will split the thing later. But for now, this is good enough. And then if we go to the JSON schema, this is where it's schema. So within it, within the JSON schema, and that is the thing that took me a little bit time because it gives the Python things, and I love Python. It's a great facade language, but when you don't do facade work, you need to have the rare stuff. So they don't give it here. Oh, here it is. So name, description, and then the schema. So the thing that took me quite a while is to understand that this is this guy here, and that is not part of the schema per se. So the schema starts here. So in fact, the JSON schema, name, and then we have the description, we'll add it, and then we have the schema. And that is our structured JSON schema. And then we do a clone. Okay. Now, the reason why it's important to do a clone is because we might say, well, you have the options, and so why you don't take the value and you clone? Well, the way that GenAI works is that the option can be sent when we execute a chat within the execution per se. So this one will consume it. But sometimes it comes from the default of the chat of the client. So we can even put a default chat option in the client as a fallback. So that's why here we need to clone it. Eventually, I might have a way to say, try to be smart about it. But so far, we clone it. So we press save. That compiles. So that is already pretty good. Actually, I just realized that I might have missed something, which is this guy here, the strict true. So we're going to follow. We're not going to try to be smart here. We're going to follow that. And again, this is not JSON schema, but it's good, they're keeping us sharp. So we had this now. Now we go there, still kind of complain because there's a JSON here that does not like somewhere. Okay, there, that's fine. And then it should kind of work. I mean, it's as simple as that. So the way it works is in the adapter is I have these two web request data that takes all the models and everything and create a web request data, which has the data for the payload. So that is a way that I abstracted all of the different adapters that do that. And for OpenAI, since there's some variants, I even have another level of indirection. And this is why I have this kind of util over there. So that is the reason why. But bottom line, this is where we create. That is where the magic happens in a way. So now we go back to our custom test. This is that, obviously. So we have the chat option, the default, and everything. And so we're on our test here. And guess what? We could see already some result. So let me see. Press save. Oh, okay. I press F8. This one, I need to import it from CRD. And then, this is pretty cool. I always get excited. With Rust, sometime. I mean, I cheated a little bit because I did some exploration before. But that's it. We have our all model here. And in fact, I don't know why I could almost do a pretty print. At some point, I might have in my chat res, we might add content text as JSON. So I think I will add that eventually, such as we can have a nice JSON. But right now, this is already pretty good. We have the maker and the model name. So we just added it to OpenAI, and we already have our test. So the way that I will do it now is to say, okay, I've done the print. I'm pretty happy. On the check, I'm going to keep the test token to make sure that the token is there. The content here, I'm going to check the content. We are going to check that the JSON is a content. It's a valid JSON, so that's good. I don't know why I have the pretty JSON, but if I wanted to have the pretty JSON over there, that was not for a check, it was probably for a print. So I can probably print it like that, and that will print us the thing. I don't know, what is that? So the thing I've noticed is it's kind of slow. When you ask a JSON, it's kind of take a while, but it is what it is. And it's funny because when I was using TypeScript, the hack JSON mod with TypeScript, I felt that it was faster. So that is hard to say. So we get all our little pretty stuff. So what I'm going to do is, now that I have the JSON value, I'm going to rename it probably JSON response. And then I'm going to want to check two things. I'm going to check that the all models is a vector of 3. That's good. And then I'm just going to check the first one, that the maker is OpenAI. That's it. And then after I can get fancy if I have time and energy. But right now, this is good enough. So that is for our debug. I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to so I'm going to do this notation because that is what I use. So I like to do a search on this one. Okay. And then now I'm going to say check models count. So I'm going to do a let model, and I'm going to do a JSON response and X get. That is my cool stuff, and all models. And I want to have a vector of value. Press save. That will complain because I don't have it there. That complain, but hopefully because I have it as a library of the crate, I can use it. So it's my trace extension, is my video of yesterday, if you want to watch it. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why I did that, because I wanted to have that in the test. And there's no easy way to have privates in the test. So I say, okay, I'm going to do it public. And then once I have that, I'm going to do an assert. And to be honest, often I do this at the count and then at the models length. That is what I do often. I like print. I'm a print kind of guy. And then I do that, and then I say, well, okay, I'm okay. Assert equal 3, this guy, I say number of models. And then, and by the way, it would be awesome, but I'm not very happy with Copilot. It would be awesome if we can do that and say check if the first model has maker OpenAI. But every time I do this with this beast, no, I don't even, no, but this is not what I wanted. Okay, whatever. So assert equal, well, I'm going to say let first maker, and I will say models get 0. No, Clippy like to say first, and then I do a OK or. So if there's nothing, I want to complain and say no models. So down that, if I toggle, that will return me the value. So I'm happy. And then I can do a X get, which is my value extension. And then I'm going to say maker. Sorry, being slow, question mark. And that should give me, oh, that doesn't know what to give me because I need to say I want to have a string. So I can go to the turbo fish over there or like that. That gives me now the first maker string here. And then I'm going to do a assert. Can you at least do it? Yeah. Okay. At least that's good. The autocomplete somehow is good. I don't know what's happened with this common eye business. So press that and it works. And actually I can. So now that I've done that, I will do these kind of things. And I think I'm going to stop this video here for the OpenAI. And I might do another video on adding it for Gemini. Yeah, so like this, we'll have the 2 here, but at least this video is not too long. I think I'm already at 30, 40 minutes. So I think this is good for today. And then we'll do another video here, which come very, very soon. And the commit will probably be already there when you watch the video, obviously. So what I will do now is I come here and I might just do, there's no reason to really have another kind of commit. So I'm going to be happy to do a git amend. You have to be careful with the git amend because you don't want to, and we do a git log. And then I have this guy here, which looks good. And obviously I don't want that, so I will do kind of a git commit amend, or we'll use fork. I like fork a lot, but, and then I do that, and I will say plus OpenAI add structured JSON. Okay, first pass, no schema, sanity check. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing that. Because here, what we have done, I mean, it's cute, but this whole like additional properties false, that will always complain. So if I don't have that, it will complain. I understand why they did that, the OpenAI, because they say, well, we want to be very explicit with what we support and doesn't support. And if they don't do that, then it's the default that they don't want to have. So, and it's part of the spec probably. So that is good. The trick is that that's kind of become heavy. Gemini, the Google guys didn't do that. So what I want is the adapters to have kind of a sanity checker or tuning that, or adjuster check, sanity check, or something like that. I don't know if check is the right, tune is the right word, but something that will change the content, not too much, but kind of will tune it to make it work. Yeah, well, I kind of think tune it is fine. Yeah, so that is a goal. So right now, I don't have that. Okay, so do a check here, and do this. And I'm going to continue to work on this branch to do the Gemini, and then I go back to main, and I'm going to merge this branch, and then after I'm going to push it. So that is a little bit the process, and then I'm going to make the release. But I think that for this video, it's already pretty good. Hopefully you follow, hopefully you like the new content here, kind of a live coding. I'm trying to really like have that not too long, but at the same time, share my, my development flow. Yeah. Okay, hope you liked it. Until next one, happy coding.